Irishman. The Irishman. Wow, that was good. The Irishman. With Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci. When you're thinking mafia movies, modern day mafia movies, these are the big wigs. And done by Martin Scorsese. If there was a Mount Rushmore for mob movies, you couldn't get any bigger than these guys. Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel, and more. I mean, it was more, man. And led by Martin Scorsese. Oh my goodness. This is the story of Jimmy Hoffa. The last year, maybe? Well, I guess it was 4 years or better because he did 4 years in jail. The last 6 years or so of Jimmy Hoffa. What led up to his disappearance and potentially his assassination by the mafia. One thing I want to say, they say in this movie, something that people talk about before, but they say it in this movie that they hint that the mob was responsible for JFK's assassination. I don't think they should have even said that in this movie, but it's there, man. It's there. It's the story of Jimmy Hoffa. I've seen the movie Hoffa. I've seen his story done before, but this is different. This is seen through the eyes, potentially, of the person who actually did the hit. And even with that, they still don't know where it happened to the body because nobody knows what happened to the body. The people who got rid of the body, I guess, they got killed too, so nobody really knows. Again, 3 of the top mob guys. And all of them were bringing it. None of them were phoning it in. Each and every single one of them gave, I'd say, in their top 2 of their performances. And all of them are not just serious mob guys. I mean, Joe Pesci's got like the Super, and Al Pacino played the devil in The Devil's Advocate, and Robert De Niro's got Meet the Fockers. I mean, they all do comedies and other stuff besides this. But if you put them in a mob movie, yeah, that's where they really shine. Frank Sharon is De Niro's character. He's a truck driver who meets some mob guys, gets some connections with them. He was in the military, so he's not really scared of the blood and guts. He shoots people, he kills people. He's done it for years in the military. It's just the same thing as business to him. It's just the squeeze of a trigger. He ends up climbing up the ranks and becoming a hitman for the mob. They trust him enough to let him whack people. And then he grows bigger. They want to be able to keep an eye on Jimmy Hoffa, who they've helped get to this position with the Teamsters. You know, he's running the trucks and everything. If you've got it, a truck bought it. That's pretty much Jimmy Hoffa's slogan. If you've got it, a truck bought it. So he controls almost all of the trucks in America. Truck Drivers Union, the Teamsters. And the mob is behind the Teamsters. If you're giving them grief, you're giving the mob grief because the mob gets a piece of that money, man. So Jimmy is beholden to the mob for his position and everything. But you know the story of Jimmy Hoffa, I assume. He gets a little big for his britches and he's like, man, I don't want to listen to the mob. I'm the leader of the Teamsters. I'm the president of the Teamsters. I'm bigger than the mob. I'm almost bigger than the president. He starts, feeling his own stuff. And he shouldn't, clearly, because you know what happens. So he decides that he's going to turn on the mob because he's bigger than the mob. They can't tell me what to do. Man, I lead the Teamsters. And that's essentially what it is. Frank Sharon, who's Robert De Niro, gets close to Al Pacino, who's Jimmy Hoffa, But he's sent there by Joe Pesci, who's the boss, essentially the boss of New York. The boss of all bosses, as they say. He's not the boss of all bosses because he keeps telling him about, it's coming from upstairs. They never say who's upstairs. The Illuminati, maybe. Woo. But whoever's above the mob is handing down orders. And they go to Joe Pesci, who hands them out to Robert De Niro. His order was to hang out with Jimmy and make sure Jimmy's trucks went, and if Jimmy had any competition or whatever, get rid of that, keep this man happy. But you still work for us. So he spent years with Jimmy, but he still worked for the mob. Jimmy Hoffa seems to have forgotten that, So Jimmy Hoffa's McDonald's. Well, Jimmy Hoffa's Burger King. Actually, you know what? Jimmy Hoffa's Wendy's. And the mob is McDonald's. And McDonald's sends a manager over to Wendy's and is like, hey man, help them out. Help them become better. We're getting a percentage of what they do now, but help them get better. And then Wendy's is like, nah man, I don't listen to you no more. McDonald's is going to cut you loose. Do it yourself. They're probably going to try to cripple you so you can't deal with them no more. That's the situation. The mob, because Jimmy still works for the mob. And Robert De Niro works directly for the mob. So he's in this dude's house playing with his kids. They're cool, but he works for the mob, man. He just couldn't seem to get that, until the end. He got it. So it was a good movie. It was a story that we know, right? A story that we all know. But a story that we've all heard of. We don't know it. Nobody know it. But they put these superb, incredible actors in it, and they weave a story. I think it was like 3 hours long, if I wasn't mistaken. And I didn't mind because it was that good. A friend of mine, Anne, hooked me up, told me about this, and she was right. This movie was the hotness. In fact, this movie was so good that I'm going to give it 9 bags of popcorn. Man, that's right. 9 bags of popcorn. What do you think about that, Ann? Hey, but have you seen The Irishman? Did you dig it? What's your favorite mob movie? Bet it's got one of the 3 in it. Let's talk about it in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.